So I want to tell you a little story here, and it actually goes way back to my 10th birthday in February 1989. You see, not everyone can claim that their 10th birthday, the big 1-0, was the best ever out of all birthdays that anyone could ever have, but for me, it really was, and here's why. Back in February 1989, there was the Chicago Auto Show. And at that Chicago Auto Show was the main reason why my birthday was so awesome, the Mazda Miata. On February 9th, 1989, Mazda unveiled the Miata. But not only did Mazda do that, Acura unveiled the NSX. Nissan unveiled the 300ZX twin turbo. Lexus unveiled the LS400, and Infiniti unveiled the Q45. It was monumental, and I was only 10 years old and too naive to understand what all of that was. But as you can tell today, it was an epic, epic birthday. So what I want to talk about is the Mazda Miata, because that's what I'm driving right now. This is the 2017 Mazda Miata Club Sport. But there's something very interesting about the 4th generation Mazda, the ND, and I want to share it with you. First off, the original Mazda Miata was based off the rear axle of the Mazda RX-7, which, when I was 10 years old, my parents actually still owned one. And when this car came out, in its first generation, I remember sitting in one at the showroom. They were actually only available in 3 colors: red, white, and blue. Even though my parents never bought one, what I ended up seeing all over the country and all over the roads, and you still do today, are these Mazda Miatas, because they're fun, they're lightweight, they're sporty, they're rear-wheel drive, they have a rag top that can go up and down easily. They're very sophisticated sporty-wise, and they're very simple to live with. And that's what made the Miata so popular. It started flying off the shelves to the point where BMW came out with the Z3 and Mercedes came out with the SLK. Porsche had the Boxster. There were all these cars that were just starting to come on the market because of the Miata. The Miata started this craze, and 28 years later, Mazda is still making the Miata. And that's remarkable because the Acura NSX has come and gone and come back again. The same thing with the Nissan Z. And the Infiniti Q45 doesn't exist anymore. It's only the Lexus LS400 that is now, in its current situation, the new LS, has been in production uninterrupted for all these years. It's just such a cornerstone of car culture that I can't really explain to you why the 4th generation Miata is the only Mazda Miata I have actually ever driven. The 1st generation stopped production in 1997 when I graduated high school. Even to that point, I still haven't driven a Mazda Miata. Then the 2nd generation and then the 3rd generation came out, and I was a teenager and I was in my 20s. Now here I am with Mazda giving me one for the week during South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, and I find myself going back to when I was 10 years old, feeling like I don't have a care in the world. What mortgage? While this new Mazda Miata may look more striking than ever, it harks back to what I believe is the actual design basis for this. Seems to look like the RX-8. So they've carried through the RX-7, and now they've moved on to the RX-8. And maybe this is a precursor of a design to maybe, I don't know, an RX-9. But what I do know is that this car is still basic in all its form. It's still pure. Driving still matters here. And that's because they spent a lot of time, just like in the first generation, engineering the sound aesthetic of the vehicle. They've engineered here something I couldn't do, is engineering weight reduction. They have found all sorts of ways to reduce weight. What Mazda managed to do was find tons of ways to save weight in the latest generation that puts it on par with the first generation. Although now I have traction control and airbags and push button start and Bluetooth stereo and GPS navigation. The list goes on and on and on. And while the first generation was released in 1989 and sold as a 1990 model, it started at $14,000. In today's money, that's about $27,000. This car in particular, though, costs a little bit more than that. It comes in at $33,335. It also has fantastic red paint, BBS wheels, Bilstein shocks, and Brembo brakes. Personally, I like the Fiat 124 Spider Classico, the bone stock version, mainly because it rides softer than this. Even though I did grow up in Calabasas and had plenty of trips to Malibu almost on a daily basis. I worked in Venice Beach. The Miata never really sprung out to me as a car that I could use daily. But sitting in here now and knowing how far that engine is off the nose of this car, it's pretty much just behind the front axle. Somehow they managed to wedge this 2-liter 4-cylinder naturally aspirated engine and this 6-speed manual gearbox between my toes and my knee. It's quite a nice little package, and it feels roomy in here. As small as this car may appear to be, it actually feels pretty good. The overall Miata experience is still here with the manual transmission and this 2-liter 4-cylinder. It really loves to be wound out. Here's my question. If it took me 28 years to get into a Miata for the first time, what would it take a millennial? Someone who is basically being brought up with the thought of autonomous cars and who currently loves to ride around in the back seat of a Toyota Corolla driven by some kind of Uber. How long will it take that person to get behind the wheel of a Miata? How long will it take that person to realize driving matters? Good night.